This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You have big dreams of losing weight and creating a healthy, joyful life. But you find yourself craving sugar, caught up in what the scale says, and diet hopping. Dieting is the old way of losing weight. And the good news is I'm going to give you a new way of eating so you can ditch diets for good and build a healthy relationship with real food. My name is Megan Olson, certified nutrition practitioner, creator of Skinny Fitalicious, and your host of the Dish on Diets show.
Hello, friends. Today we're talking about shifting your mindset to lose weight. This concept of changing your mindset for weight loss seems vague to many women, so we're going to talk about it today because it really is the foundation of your weight loss. Your mindset encompasses how you think and perceive things and how you feel. And because you have thoughts and feelings and you perceive things in certain ways, that influences your behavior with food and exercise. I don't know why nobody on the planet talks about mindset, because it really is the driver of your behavior. So if you're stuck and you're struggling with food and you struggle with diet mentality and an unhealthy relationship with food, it's because your mindset needs work. Your mindset, your thoughts and feelings are influencing your relationship with food, how you're going about dieting, and also how you're taking care of your health. Because your behaviors with food and exercise, they don't just happen. You're not a robot. Most people can't do that. And I should back up and say, I do know why most people don't talk about it is because it doesn't sell. The stuff you see right now, the stuff that you probably click and like and look at the most on social media are the people who are like, oh my God, did you know that this one food is making you fat? Oh my gosh, did you know you need to have this supplement in midlife? Oh my goodness, did you know as a menopausal woman you shouldn't be eating fruit because it makes you fat because it has too much sugar? That's the stuff that gets a lot of attention. So a good rule of thumb, anybody who says those type of things and then they follow it up by, here's my link, here's my code, buy this product that I'm recommending, here's the supplements I'm recommending, hey, you should maybe inject yourself with these things that are not regulated. That's a red flag. They're just looking to profit off of you and your desperation. People like me who are talking about the boring basic stuff over and over again that really do improve people's health. And then we start talking about the psychology of weight loss, the mindset you need to have to lose weight, and the mindset hurdles that a lot of times people get stuck in. This stuff isn't sexy. It doesn't sell. It doesn't get clicks. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't get millions of followers. And that's why I'm never going to be one of those people. And I don't really care because I am in this to help women. And I'm sick and tired of women being lied to and scammed out of their money, scammed out of their time. And really their body composition never changes, or how they feel about themselves never changes, or their relationship with food never changes. So we're going to talk about your mindset, and you may need to take some notes today. If you're serious about really wanting to tackle your issues with food and exercise and get out of diet land, these are things that you need to work on. And these are things I coach clients on. I have different lessons on mindset that I work on with clients, in addition to working on their habits and their behaviors with food and making sure they're getting the right nutrients and eating in a calorie deficit if that's appropriate. I have some clients that's not appropriate. We're literally just working on feeding themselves really well and their relationship with food and habits. Every client is different because what I do is individualized coaching. It's not a cookie cutter program. Yes, a lot of clients do end up doing some of the same things because the boring basics work. And this is the stuff. 80% of what I do with clients is helping them with their mindset and helping them change. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples of some things I've seen over the years with mindset to help kind of frame this discussion. So, for instance, I had a client a while back. She went to her doctor, and her doctor said, "Hey, you've done a great job. Your A1C has come down." And A1C is a blood test indicator of whether or not you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. And she had been pre-diabetic. And so that's why she ended up working with me. And over a few months, just by working on protein and getting her moving a little bit more, she was able to reverse that. And her doctor was like, "Oh my gosh, you've done great," right? And my client, instead of looking at that and saying, "Oh, okay, this is great, I've made some progress," she didn't do that. She started beating herself up and said, "I have so far to go. I still haven't lost weight yet," blah, blah, blah. Like all of that negative stuff started to happen. Okay. We're going to talk about why that thinking is so detrimental in weight loss. It's very demoralizing. And I think that when people think about weight loss coaching, they think, "Oh, great, one more person that's just going to shame me and guilt me and beat me up. And I'm already doing that to myself. I don't need somebody else to bully me into doing these habits that I know I should be doing, but I don't know why I'm not doing them." Right? So we're going to talk about this more today so you understand why you might be stuck, because why you're stuck is in your brain. It's not in the food. So if you've been a long time listener, you've heard many of my clients on this podcast talk about how they've changed their mindset during their coaching time with me in various ways and how it helped them achieve peace with food, peace with their bodies, and just made weight loss and taking care of their health habits a lot easier. Everything starts with the mind. If you don't have that good foundation with how you think about things, how you perceive things, how you treat yourself, it really does make it hard to do these habits. And that's where women will play the mental gymnastics of why am I not doing what I need to be doing? So there are many layers to mindset that I coach my clients on. Guilt and shame around food, perfectionism, people-pleasing, negative self-talk, their beliefs, their identity, self-criticism, how you perceive things, how you view failure, a fixed mindset versus growth mindset, which we're going to talk a lot about fixed mindset versus growth mindset today. But these are all things that I work on with clients. Your mindset is literally the lens through which you see the world and you interpret things and you perceive different things that are coming in. It's your environment. It's also your upbringing, the people you surround yourself with, your socioeconomic status, all that stuff really impacts how you view things. In regard to weight loss and nutrition, your past attempts at trying to live a healthy lifestyle, how you feel about that, what you tell yourself, that all makes up your mindset and how you are viewing yourself and your ability to get healthier and lose some body fat. So let's get into one of the biggest things, the biggest problems I see clients struggling with, and it's a lot of self-criticism and judgment. In fact, one of the first mindset lessons I tackle immediately with new clients when they begin coaching with me is self-criticism. Women are so highly critical with themselves. You're literally a bully to yourself and you talk negatively to yourself, which is exactly why you struggle with food and exercise. I always ask my clients, would you talk to a friend like that? Of course they say no. And that right there is a major problem. Imagine walking around with a bully all day long telling you how terrible you are, nitpicking at you for every choice you made with food, telling you did this wrong, this not good enough, this not well enough, you failed at this, why bother trying? Why did you eat that food? You shouldn't have eaten that food. That food is fattening. You know better. Oh, here you go again. Right? Imagine speaking to a friend like that. This type of critical self-talk is exactly why women quit trying to lose weight and get healthier. It's also why they don't sign up with coaching, because they think that's what their coach is going to do. And side note, if your coach is doing that to you, that is not actually coaching. Because no one wants to rock around with a bully all day. This is why women quit. This is why women quit getting healthier, because they're walking around with a bully in their head all day long. And in order to quiet the self-criticism, you then quit working on your health habits. You ditch it. And that's because you don't want to have to hear the self-criticism and negativity anymore. And you're doing it to yourself and you don't even realize it. What most women need to learn in their weight loss journey is how to treat themselves with kindness and compassion. This is a coaching lesson that I work on with clients right in the beginning, because I know from having done this for 11 years that if this is not addressed up front, when I'm working with somebody, any woman I'm working with is a ticking time bomb. Because the self-criticism and negative self-talk, it's going to kick in and then they're going to quit. Even if it's a reasonable way of eating. And of course, I want my clients to be successful. And because I do this all the time, 8 hours a day for 11 years, I know what the pitfalls are. And one major one is somebody who's self-critical. And women are really like this. And so many of them will tell me, no, I don't really think I'm like that. And then suddenly they'll realize it at some point. For most clients I work with, their issue really is not the food. It's how they're mistreating themselves. It's all the mental stuff that gets in the way. And as a side note, I do believe this is why women, struggle with scheduling a consultation or signing up for coaching. I think some of them may have had bad experiences with other coaches, and I'm sorry if that's been you. Just like any medical profession, you get good doctors, you get bad doctors, you get good therapists, bad therapists, good dentists, bad dentists, good nutritionists, bad nutritionists, right? And so I think a lot of women kind of shy away from having a consultation or signing up for coaching. They fear that the person coaching them is going to criticize and demoralize them. That's not how I work. And you can listen to any of the dozens of clients of mine on this podcast who have stated over and over again that I never did that to them. But I do think a lot of women fear being coached because this is what they think coaching is going to be all about. A drill sergeant guilting and shaming them into eating healthy foods and exercising. That is not real coaching. And that is also not how you achieve positive behavior change. When people shame and guilt you, you're going to shut down and quit. It's very, very demotivating. This is not effective coaching, and it's absolutely not what I do. I do offer my clients tough love and alternate perspectives at times on how they're thinking and help them work through circumstances specific to their lives to help them figure out how they can do some things versus doing nothing. But it always is a fine balance, right? Like self-kindness, compassion, but also making sure we're looking at facts and being honest and, just giving ourselves a little bit of that tough love, kind of like what you do with your kids. You're objective, right? But you're also coming from a loving place. That's what real coaching is about. But it's also something that you have to learn how to do for yourself, because self-criticism is probably the biggest mindset issue I see across the board for women that I work with, which is why I coach heavily on this in the beginning of my program so I can get ahead of it and I can make sure that they're not going to sabotage, because there will come a point where you'll sabotage and quit because you're going to want to run away from that bully. So when I have coaching calls with clients, one of the things that I also do is I make sure that I structure the calls in a way that I don't allow clients to start off the call telling me everything they did wrong. That's what everybody always wants to do. They're like, I did this wrong, I suck at this, and I'm terrible at this, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Everybody tries to do that. And I say, no. We're not going to do that anymore, because I know if that's where their headspace is at, I know they're going to quit and sabotage. So part of practicing compassion and kindness is forcing yourself to think differently and seeing where you're making non-scale progress and giving yourself credit for practicing new skills. I'll often say to clients, tell me what you've been practicing. And some women will still want to kind of go down into that self-criticism path, and I'll have to pull them back by, setting up the coaching calls this way and say, no, we don't do that anymore. Tell me what you're practicing. Tell me what are some of the wins that you've had, right? Honestly, that is what weight loss and changing your lifestyle really is about, is thinking differently and learning to treat yourself differently and learning to show up for yourself when you don't want to, and no longer tolerating putting yourself down. Easier said than done, but this will absolutely sabotage you in weight loss. It doesn't matter how good your eating plan is or how good the diet or how slow it is. If you don't fix this one problem, which is a major problem I see across the board for all women I've ever worked with, if this goes unaddressed, weight loss is not going to happen. You're just a ticking time bomb. But one thing I want to emphasize is you can absolutely change your mindset over time with the right coaching, with the right support, and the right direction. Which leads me to talking about the difference between a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. This is something I work on with clients, whether or not they really know it, because I don't sit down and give them a lesson in psychology on growth mindset versus fixed mindset, but I give them different lessons to help them become more of a growth mindset person. So if you think about an obstacle or road bump, do you view it as, I can't possibly do that? This is going to mess me up. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I can't. Or do you see it as, oh, this is interesting. How could I work around this? How can I work through this? Those are two vastly different mindsets. Two vastly different mindsets. And you can change your mindset with intention and practice. For me, this is one of the amazing things about coaching clients is just seeing their mindset transform. I like saying to them, hey, do you remember when you started 6 months ago with me, when you faced a similar situation and you totally fell apart and you spiraled out of control? And now look at what you're doing. You're navigating it a lot better, right? So this is always what I call non-scale victories, right? You're able to navigate these situations without spiraling mentally out of control. What's wrong with me? I don't know why I always do this. Which means that also you have to pay attention to language. Language matters a lot. What you say to yourself matters. And this is something I coach clients on. For example, I am, I always, I never, this is what always happened. I always do this. When I get stressed, this is what I do. Versus saying something like, this is what I tend to do when I'm stressed, and this is what I'll try to do the next time I'm stressed. Or I'm a perfectionist versus I'm a person who has perfectionist tendencies, but I'm working on that. Or I'm a stress eater versus I eat because I don't know what to do with my stress. And here's some things I'm going to try to do to help alleviate and handle stress, right? Notice there's two different mindsets. One is very definitive and negative, and the other one's very much more opportunity and I'm very open to trying new things. You know, sometimes it kind of seems annoying to have to pay attention to how you say things and your language, but these real subtle things make a difference in your motivation and how you feel about doing your habits. It's the idea of either looking at something as opposition, something you just can't possibly overcome, and if you face it, you believe you're going to fail, so why bother trying, versus looking at it as an opportunity to learn and get better. This is an opportunity for me to try something different. This is an opportunity for me to figure out something else. If you always do something a certain way, then this is an opportunity for you to grow. A growth mindset when it comes to nutrition and fitness goals is going to help you way more move towards your goals a lot easier, because if you're always criticizing yourself and negative Nancy, that bully is always in your head and telling you you're doing everything wrong and see all these things are going on, I just possibly can't do it because I have all these obstacles in my life. See, right? If you're doing that, no one wants to hang out with that all day long, and you're doing it to yourself. So eventually, you're just going to bail from the goal of your nutrition and fitness goals. You're just not going to feel motivated because this is very demoralizing. And you're doing it to yourself. Nobody's doing it to you except you. Now, this is not to say you're hopeless if you have this kind of fixed mindset. And it's also not to say that nothing's going to work for you. That's not true. All my clients are like this. You're totally normal if you do this, because we all do this as women. We're super hard on ourselves, right? But if you are open to looking at things differently and getting curious and asking, how did I get here? What's not serving me? You're going to be way more objective and find more solutions to help yourself. A lot of it is being more objective versus being so negative and self-critical. So self-criticism and negativity is just going to lead to that feeling of lack of motivation and why should I bother trying, because it's very demoralizing. If you've been moving through the world and noticing you throw up a lot of roadblocks and tend to stop instead of saying, hey, what can I do to get over this road bump? Can I go around this road bump? You know, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just kind of get stuck there. I have this roadblock, I'm stuck, right? But sometimes in the beginning, you're not necessarily going to know what to do when you come across a road bump. For you, one step in the right direction is just to have the awareness that, oh, I'm noticing that I'm stopping when there's a road bump. That's already a win for you. Just the awareness piece is a win because now you can say, oh, I recognize this is what's going on, and now I'm going to try something different. You're going to look at it as an opportunity versus a dead stop. Making that shift is going to be a huge win for you. It's going to set the foundation for you to have more consistent habits over time. You know, years ago, I share this example with a lot of my clients. I had a client get on an airplane flying the West Coast to the East Coast, which, as we all know, is like a 4 or 5 hour flight, and she forgot to pack protein. She forgot to pack any food, and she got on the 4-hour flight and messaged me saying, Megan, I will never do that again. I learned I need to have protein and have food with me because I was starving when I got off the flight and I ate all this food, and I just learned that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And she learned from that mistake. Whereas most individuals who are trying to lose weight and improve their health, they would see that road bump and say, see, this is why I can't do this. This is why it's too hard. They would go into that fixed mindset. So for my client, this was a growth mindset. It was a win. And it's a good example of the difference between a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I think if you've struggled with your weight and fear that you're never going to get there, and you're just never going to get it together with your health habits, I encourage you to look at other areas of your life where you have demonstrated a growth mindset. The real interesting thing is all my coaching clients are women who are high achievers. Lawyers, accountants, teachers, doctors, therapists, FBI agents, business owners. You don't get into any of those fields with a fixed mindset. You learned from your mistakes. You pushed yourself outside your comfort zone. You did hard things to get there, and you achieved amazing things going through those hard things. In nutrition and fitness, women tend to fall into that fixed mindset because of past failures and doing ridiculously unsustainable diets and depriving themselves of any joy because they think if they have to lose weight, they have to deprive themselves of all joy. I have to order the salad. I can't eat what I really want when I go to the restaurant. That is what makes it so hard, is that fixed mindset and falling into the diet culture nonsense, which I don't think a lot of women realize is really just a scam. It's just keeping you in the loop of being a dieter forever, right? You have achieved success with these type of careers that you have built for yourself and building a family and building a life. Like, you didn't get there with a fixed mindset. You got there with a growth mindset. And if you look at the other areas of your life, you can recognize that, yeah, you probably made mistakes while you were working toward those goals or towards those things, but you learned through the discomfort of making mistakes and grew. You learned going through those hard things in your life. Hard is not a bad thing. Changing your lifestyle habits can be hard, but you can still do it. You can still set up the habits and the boundaries and routines for yourself and make it work for your life. I use this to answer the question of motivation too, because I always get this question of, how do I get motivated? How do I stay motivated? What do I do when I'm not motivated? There's so many things you do in life that you do them whether or not you're motivated. That's part of being an adult. Go to work, wake up in the morning, brushing your teeth, cleaning the litter box, walking the dog, taking the garbage out, paying the bills, doing the laundry. I highly doubt you feel incredibly motivated and you're just chomping at the bit to do those things all the time. But how can that mindset apply to your nutrition and behavior and the habits that you do for your nutrition and behavior? I think a lot of women get so in their head about nutrition and fitness stuff that you forget all the other amazing successes you've had in your life where you have had a growth mindset, where you learn from your setbacks, where you learn from the harder times and you approach them in a completely different way. Can you imagine looking at your life as a doctor? You go to medical school, pass your board exams, do your residency, spent a decade building a practice, probably have $500,000 in debt. Can you imagine achieving all of that and going, yeah, I achieved all that, but I'm still fat. This mindset that, well, all these great things have happened in my life. I've had all these successes, but I still need to lose weight. I'm still fat. What? Like, a lot of women have great lives. They're so successful. I'm always so surprised at the consultations I have with women, and they're like, I'm a therapist, I'm a psychologist, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer. Yeah, like, you've literally achieved all these great things, but then you don't enjoy any of it because it's one piece of your life you're unsatisfied with. You're missing out on your life so much, and you're not appreciating all the successes you've had so far in your life. And since I mentioned motivation, let's talk about being busy, because I frequently hear this. I should have done this when I was less busy. I'm going to do this when I'm less busy. I think there is some validity to that, where yes, some seasons of life are busy, and that is where you need to lean into doing what I call the bare minimums to keep you on the path of taking care of your health versus the all or nothing of stopping everything. When you are crazy busy, it may not be the right time to focus on fat loss and eat in a calorie deficit, but you should be able to lean into doing something to take care of your health. This is what podcast 145 is about, where I talked about doing hard things and getting uncomfortable. Most women just stop doing everything that they're doing. That is so strange to me. Like, do you stop brushing your teeth? Probably not. Because the thing is about your fitness and nutrition. How are you going to take care of your health if you're not willing to take some action when life is busy, right? Like getting some steps, getting some protein. You may need to dial back certain things, but doing nothing is the same as yo-yo dieting. I mean, women who tell me they can't do coaching right now because they're too busy and they're waiting for the right time, that right time is never going to come. You're getting in your own way. And I do see a lot of women keeping themselves stuck with this mindset all the time. On one hand, I get it. It's valid that you're busy, but also before doing nothing for your health, can we maybe say no to some things? Can we delegate some things? Can we just let go of certain things until a later time so you can give yourself something? Because this perfectionist thinking that some individuals get trapped in, it's really detrimental. It just kind of drives in this all or nothing behavior. And this is where you start to yo-yo and be a yo-yo dieter. So I always like to challenge clients, like, what is it actually that you think you have to be doing when you're busy? You know, if a client says something to me like, I must get 10,000 steps every single day, I'm like, well, can you just dial that back to 4,000? Or what can we do on average in a week? You know, it's funny, but a lot of people don't naturally think that way. What I just said. Most people think I must do it perfectly day in or day out like a robot. The reality is you may not be able to fully do things a certain way. But even when you're busy or don't feel like it, you still need to do certain things to be a healthy, functioning adult. And a good coach is going to help you brainstorm how you can rearrange your plate or dial things back to benefit you when you are in a busy season of life. That's what I do with my clients so they can stay on the path. If a client tells me I can only go to the gym twice a week, I talk with them about how they can maximize that time. You know, some coaches and trainers are more like, you must do these things or else. I think that is why some people also shy away from coaching, because they have been burned by so many of these like trainers and these type of approaches in the past. All that does, you know, you must do this all the time, like this way or else. All that does is reinforce an all or nothing mindset, which makes people really inconsistent with their nutrition and exercise behaviors. So I never coach a client with a do these things or else approach, because that's never helpful. And it doesn't teach people how to navigate their health habits when their life is busy, because that's never going to stop. So learning to navigate real life with your habits and learning how to be flexible with those habits and fit something in is the goal. The goal is not to be perfect. That said, for those of you who say, I am a perfectionist, you saying you are a perfectionist is actually procrastination. You thinking it must be a certain way to do things is procrastination. If I can't do it all just right, then I don't do it, or I can't start until I know everything and have everything aligned. That is procrastination. Any level of hecticness, busyness, chaotic life, change in routine that you have, you've got to step back and take smaller steps and just be okay with one step at a time or dialing things back. This is how I coach my clients. Let's just go for a 10-minute walk 3 days a week. Let's just work on breakfast. We work on 1 or 2 small manageable steps versus trying to be perfect with everything and feeling like a failure. But people who are perfectionists, they don't like that. They want to do it all right, or they don't want to do it at all. Because people who are perfectionists don't like that. They don't like doing kind of sort of. So when life gets busy, they tend to fall back into this mindset of I can't do anything because I can't do it the right way. So when you find yourself saying, I can't, ask yourself if it's really true that you can't do anything. What could I do even if it is not how I normally do it? That's a much different mindset than telling yourself you can't do anything. The I can't mindset feeds into your identity, your beliefs, your trust with your ability to succeed, your labels. I'm a perfectionist. I'm an all or nothing person. I'm too busy. I'm too stressed. I'm too this. I'm too that. Pause and think, is it really true? I would wager it's not. You might have to pivot. You might have to adjust or dial some things back or rearrange some things or say no to somebody. And honestly, when you start to do that, there's just so much power when you start doing that for yourself. You start to feel really in control. Sure, there's going to be wrenches thrown your way. And, many people are too quick to go the I can't path. I really see that a lot. I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah, but I can't do this. Yeah, but this. Why can't you? Says who? You can say no to your family. You can say no to friends. I think a lot of women think societal pressure prevents them from saying no to things, which leads me right into people pleasing. Think about if you and a friend always went to coffee every weekend and your friend said to you that they couldn't meet for coffee with you this week, even though they met you for coffee 3 of the last 4 weeks. I'm sure you wouldn't say, I'm sorry, I can no longer be your friend anymore. Right? I'm sure you wouldn't adopt an all or nothing mindset and say, friend, I cannot be friends with you anymore because you did not want to meet with me, even though the last 3 weeks you did meet with me. I'm sure you wouldn't say to that friend, I'm sorry, I can't be your friend anymore. Like, you don't treat your friendships as like all or nothing. It's so funny because in our real life, with everything we do in life, we never treat anything like all or nothing except nutrition and fitness. We do treat as all or nothing. And this is why shifting your mindset is so important, because we have to kind of examine what we're doing. So like a lot of women I coach, they'll be like, I don't want to let my friend down. We go to coffee every week, right? I really need the time, but I really don't want to say no to them. I feel like I'm being rude. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to let them down. That's the thing. Like, what story are you telling yourself about that? Is it more of a big deal in your head than it would be if you just explained to your friend that you need to give back a little bit to you? Because the bottom line is you do need to carve out time for yourself. If you're always giving to everybody else, all that's going to do is create resentment. So part of this journey of losing weight is you also sort of have to evaluate the people in your circle, your friendships and your family, because anybody who is putting you down and who is not actually supporting what you're doing, that may not actually be a relationship that is serving you. And unfortunately, that's something I do see quite frequently with clients that I work with. And it's stuff that really is a barrier mindset-wise to like creating better habits for yourself, right? Like, I think you have to kind of consider like the stories you're telling yourself, but also like the factual relationships, because there are some relationships where the people are difficult in our lives, but also sometimes I think we are telling ourselves stories that this is impossible and I can't possibly do that. Like sometimes women will say, I really want to go for a walk after dinner, but I don't know how my family's going to feel about that. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that your family's going to come down on you like a ton of bricks if you say, I want to go for a walk while they're watching TV after dinner. Is that really what's going to happen? Or maybe should you just like say, hey, I'm going for a walk. Anyone want to come? And just do what's right for you. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we tell ourselves these deeper stories and kind of make it more dramatic than it really is. And maybe nobody's really even going to care that you're going for a walk. Or maybe everybody's going to be like, yeah, a walk sounds great. It's summer. It's a summer night. Let's go for a walk, right? Like I think sometimes we tell ourselves kind of these stories and then the story prevents us from taking the action. People pleasing is part of perfectionism because you fear what somebody else might think of you. You don't want anybody to be mad at you. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You just want everything to be perfect, nice, calm, and peaceful because we never want to disappoint anyone. We never want to say no. And then we end up doing things that we feel resentful about that sucks our time away and our energy away. And then we never have the time to give back to ourselves or the energy to give back to ourselves. If I was going to give all of you listening to this podcast one thing to work on regarding people pleasing, it would be to make a list of everything you're currently saying yes to and put on that list what you could start saying no to if you weren't afraid of disappointing someone or upsetting someone, because that is now the list of things you really don't have to do. That is the list of things that you are doing out of fear, not because you must, but people pleasers convince themselves that they must do those things. Now, along these lines, I think sometimes you need to rethink taking on other people's feelings too. One thing that was powerful for me to realize in my journey was that I was taking on other people's feelings. I would think that it was my fault if someone was upset or that I needed to fix how they felt. But once I was like, well, they're responsible for their own feelings. I'm responsible for my feelings. That all took the pressure off. I mean, it's one thing to own like how you made somebody feel, sorry, I made you feel that way, but it didn't mean that I had to take on people's feelings. And that really does take the pressure off, right? If I screwed up, I'm going to apologize, but they're still responsible for their feelings. For me, I was like, wow, I really don't have to take care of somebody else's feelings. That's their job to own their own feelings. And I think us as women, we take that on a lot. But going back to the walk after dinner while your family is watching TV, is it true that it's really rude to say you're going to go for a walk? I mean, it's only rude if you say it to them rudely. What's wrong with you lazy people? You should be out walking. Why are you sitting on your butts watching TV? Why aren't you the pinnacle of health like me? I mean, it's only rude if you are being rude about it. It's not rude to turn down seconds. It's not rude to leave food left over on the plate. It's not rude to turn down a glass of wine. It's not rude to bring fruit or a protein to a gathering. It's not rude to turn down things you know aren't what you truly want. It's only rude if you are rude about it. And unless you're hanging out with the wrong crowd, it's not going to be a big deal unless you make it a big deal. People pleasers tend to make habits a big deal because they don't want to disappoint other people and they don't want other people to feel a certain way. But the thing is you don't have to own other people's feelings. They own their feelings. Now, there is the one thing that we should talk about, and that's family dynamics, which are interesting. And sometimes, in some of our family dynamics, they say things that are sometimes hurtful, and sometimes they tease us about certain things, especially when we're working on our health habits. I have seen that with clients, unfortunately. But when that happens, I want you to remember that is a reflection of them. They are expressing their difficulty with you making your health a priority by making those comments to you about you making it a priority for yourself. So you may have to put on some armor of steel and ignore that and just go for a walk, which I know is easier said than done. You have to realize it's more about them than it is about you, and maybe health has never been a priority for them or the family. Again, I know it's easier said than done because it hurts more when it's coming from a family member, but understand it's about their insecurity. Somewhere in there, they wish they were doing what you're doing. And the only thing you can control in those situations are your reactions. You cannot prevent people from saying bad things to you, but you can control how you react to it. If you constantly let those things spiral into mental chaos, that's where your growth mindset really needs to happen, and that's where your work is. The more you let other people dictate your actions, the more resentment you have. Do you want to put all your energy into your sister rolling her eyes or what your uncle said at a holiday dinner? Or do you want to put your energy into what you do have control over? It's all about handling it in a more peaceful way for you, and that is a win in your mindset. Do what you need to do to be your best self. Other people are going to have opinions. Other people are going to judge you. Other people are going to tease you. You need to put up an armor of steel because it's going to happen. To wrap this up, I want you to listen to the tape playing in your head. Is it opportunity or opposition? What stories are you telling yourself about the things you need to do? What is it that you think you need to do? Until you get your mindset fixed around some of these issues we talked about today, you will struggle with exercise and nutrition because everything is mental first. Long-term change doesn't happen until your mindset changes, and nothing changes until you shift how you look at things. I hear this all the time from clients. You always give me a different perspective on how to look at it that way. Or, Megan, I never thought about thinking about it that way. I hear this consistently in coaching calls, right? Because how you're looking at things, the stories you're telling yourself is impacting your motivation and how you're feeling about doing certain habits for yourself. This is hard for everybody, changing your mindset. It's just a different hard for everybody. But I want to encourage you to make hard your friend. You can't avoid doing hard things when you're trying to change. So make hard your friend. Hard is not a bad thing. Everybody seems to kind of go down that's a bad thing. I can't do that. That's terrible. No, hard is good. Change that mindset. Dwelling, complaining, looking for reasons you can't do something, or focusing on how far you have to go or how far gone you are, why you're going to fail, criticizing yourself, talking to yourself like a bully. That's all a fixed mindset and will keep you stuck. Instead of that stuff, shift it, turn it around, look for opportunities, accept taking things slow. Look for how you can do things differently. Look for giving yourself grace and compassion and telling yourself a different perspective. Like, what would somebody who's objective say about that situation? And practice dialing habits up and down as life happens. That is a growth mindset. And once you adopt a growth mindset along with dropping self-criticism, everything changes, guys. Everything. I always find working with women, these are the real issues preventing women from losing weight and taking care of their health. And always trying to diet by being super strict, super extreme. As long as you're eating in a reasonable, practical, doable way that you can do until you're 85 plus years old, the real issue getting in your way of being consistent and showing up and getting the results is the self-criticism and some of the mindset issues I talked about today. I see it all the time. Get a powerful coach, somebody who can guide you with this stuff if you can't do it yourself, because it's not really about food and exercise. And the more you focus on what you have to cut out and what you have to do with food and exercise or whatever gimmick or scam people are trying to get you to buy these days, the more you focus over there, the more you're just prolonging your results. It's all your mindset and how you treat yourself that always gets in the way. And if you need help, schedule a consultation with me. I'm happy to talk with you and talk to you about how I can help you reach your goals. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my free weight loss class. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss, how hormones impact weight loss, and the truth about lasting weight loss without relying on willpower, workouts, or deprivation. Click the link in the show notes to watch that free class today. And if you are a woman over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, schedule a free weight loss breakthrough session with me after you watch that class. And let's talk about your 20 to 50 or more pound weight loss plan.